Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tvayo Shritva Pranamami Muhur Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukha Swarupaya Swamine Tapaharine Sthapakaya Cha Dharmasya Sarvadharma Swarupine Avataro Varishtaya Ramakrishnaya Te Namaha. Good evening, everybody. So let's just keep our eyes closed and let's just start by, like we always do, let's take some deep breaths. When I mean deep breath, I mean let's breathe in 4 breaths, hold 4 breaths, then breathe out. So breathe in 4, hold 4, and then breathe out. And do this very slowly. And what we just want to do right now, well, some of us, we've been racing throughout the entire day. So just to now try to connect with our breath. Let's start. Breathe in, hold it, breathe out. Keep doing that at your own pace. Again, breathe in. As you breathe in, feel that keep your back straight, keep erect, and feel that you're breathing in all the good energy, all the positive energy of the world. And as you breathe out, you're breathing out all the toxicity of the mind. Keep breathing in. Breathe out. As we keep doing this, we just notice our heart is starting to slow down a little, and we're becoming a little more calm. Hold it and breathe out. And feel a little bit of that relaxation. You're feeling a little more relaxed now. More positive energy is in, and the negative energy is going out. Now, let's begin our gratitude practice. Beginning with our toes. Let's feel our toes. We can wiggle our toes. And let's be grateful in these toes, how much service they're doing for us. You know that even if one toe is aching or it can't function properly, it really throws us off and we would be unable to move. So feeling the toes and sending gratitude towards the toes. Thank you for serving us. And keep your breathing up. Don't let go. Keep again the breathing. With the thought, connect that with the breathing. Next we feel the balls of the toes, the Achilles, the calves, the knees, the shin bone. All of these things we offer our gratitude. Each part of the body. When we keep going up, we go to the thighs, the hamstrings, different parts of the glutes, different parts of the body, offering gratitude. Our lungs, which allows us to breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. Our heart, without which we would not be able to live. Keep going up. Our shoulder, our trapezius, neck. We thank all for selflessly serving us. Our eyes, nose, mouth, hands, fingertips, for these are the karmendriyas which allow us to connect and interact and understand the world. The ears, by which we can hear the beautiful sounds of the universe. Our mind, as Swami Vivekananda said, we may have the grace of our Guru, the 330 million gods of the universe, but without the grace of our own mind, it all comes to naught. So being thankful for our mind, for helping us, and being our friend and not enemy. Our intellect, which allows our faculty of discernment, which allows us to discriminate and understand good from bad, and helps us to make proper choices in life, what we call viveka. Now we think of our spiritual teachers, whose blessings by which we are able to move around in this universe and feel those blessings of God. Our parents, all of our teachers, from when we were a young boy, young girl, up to now, we're offering gratitude to all of them. Our salutations to all of them. And finally, with the entire universe, the cosmos, the stars. With that, what we call Ishvara, that makes this universe move and makes it move in a rhythm. We offer our gratitude and our salutations. Not only think, really feel, experience that feeling of gratitude. Along with that feeling you have, now the practice of metta means friendship. But what we say in Buddhism, this friendship towards ourself, being a friend to our own mind, appreciating our good qualities. Karuna, compassion towards ourselves. Feeling our strength of our good qualities, whatever it may be. And just being a friend to ourselves. Now let's think with this positivity and the strength we're feeling right now. Let's think that may all beings be happy, joyful, healthy, and may none be subject to sorrow. Everyone, look into your mind. If there's anyone, anything that you feel that we're having any animosity towards, shower them with prayers and good wishes and good thoughts. Let's take a moment to do that as well. This karuna towards others, because everybody's struggling. Everyone in this universe is struggling until we realize that highest experience, that highest knowledge. All of us will be struggling with good days and bad days. Finally, let's complete this with what Ramakrishna said, Virag and Anurag. Virag means what? Detachment from this world. What does detachment mean? We sometimes think it means sannyasa, renunciation. No, what it means is actually trying to cut out our expectations from anybody and anything in this universe. That is virag, lowering our expectations. And what is anurag? Attachment for that divine, what you call the Atman, Ishvara, Ramakrishna, Holy Mother. You can think of Ramakrishna's feet and just focus on that, or Holy Mother, or the Divine Mother Kali, that beatific smile, whatever suits you. Completing it with that visualization in our heart. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat. Thank you all. Let us can now slowly open our eyes, or even keep our eyes closed for a little bit, not to lose that state. Now, what we're going to do today, we're doing the Yoga Sutras, and one thing that I want to do, and one of my goals is that we have so many, there's so many classes in the Yoga Sutras. You can find so many on the internet. So why another class in the Yoga Sutras? What I feel is that one of my goals from this, in making this more embodied, something more interactive, something that, as Swami Vivekananda said, we should make manifest in our life right here and right now, in our daily life. I've said this again and again, and I'll stick by it, that I think that sometimes there can be too much emphasis on philosophy And what happens is that people can learn the terminology, and they can learn the ideas, but it may not be so easy to apply in our own life. We always think, I was seeing a class on Vedanta yesterday, and they were giving a class about, someone was giving a class on Vijnana Vedanta, and they were comparing Aurobindo's, this Ishavasya Upanishad to Ramakrishna's philosophy, comparing Shankara with Ramakrishna. And I think they were talking about the clay pot analogy. Many of you have heard of the clay pot analogy, that the clay and the pots are made of clay. So sometimes I feel that what we do, but I see people, we look at these analogies and we study these analogies for 30, 40, 50 years till the age of 90, 100. But yet what happens? Somehow we're applying it to everything, to Shankara's examples, Ramakrishna's examples, Swami Vivekananda's words. But somehow there's what we call a filter, and we're unable to apply it in our own life. That's what I sometimes see with myself, with others, monks even, not just what I saw, monks even in India, everywhere. What prevents us from applying these things? Why is it so hard to apply in our own life? There's some filter there. I think that we talked about this before. We had mentioned this idea of, in psychology, they talk something about the idea of negative bias, negative cognitive bias. What does that mean? So this negative cognitive bias means that a person may say 100 good things towards us, but if they say even one bad thing, like a magnet to iron, our mind goes towards that, and it remembers that in a that's it for this life almost. Whenever we see that person, one thing's for sure, we're going to remember that what they said. They might give me and so many nice things, but it's really hard to undo that what a person has said. So I think that that's one thing that we can try to do. What can we do to try to bring these things embodied? Last time so let's just go through what we did last time. And during the last class, we talked about this yoga chitta vritti nirodhaha. Before that, atha yoga anushasanam. So let's all repeat that together. Our goal is actually that let's do these one sutras at a time. And if possible, I gave you a link to the chanting. It's a very beautiful link. And maybe my hope is that by the time we're done with the first chapter, if we make this like a daily practice, we can memorize these things. And every time we do it, we can start from the beginning, and we can try to start from the beginning and try to, as many as we've memorized, we can try to make that one goal by the end of this to memorize chapter 1. So let's say it all, repeat together. Atha yoga anushasanam. Let's repeat it 3 times. Atha yoga anushasanam. One more. Atha yoga anushasanam. So, yes. And what does atha mean? That's going to be, now we're going to start getting also to the next stage of things. What do these terms mean? What does atha mean? That's okay if we don't remember. Let's just try to.
Now we come to yoga, right? I mean,
yes.
That one is now we come to.
Yes. So the word atha means now, and yoga. Yoga is going to be what does yoga mean? What it comes from the Sanskrit dhatu yuj, which means what? Union. So yoga means union. So we may think of union between the Jivatman and the Paramatman in Vedanta. Now there's also a second meaning. It comes from the dhatu yujir. Yujir means actually separation. And that's more what we're talking about when it comes to the Yoga Sutras. We're talking about separation of our Purusha from, what's the other term? Prakriti, yes. And that's, how is that different from this Advaita philosophy. What's the main difference? One of the main differences between the Advaita philosophy and the Yoga Sankhya philosophy? Okay, so one difference is that in Advaita, there's only one reality. Advaita Advitiyam. So no there's no object, there's only the subject, which thou art, Tattvamasi. Yet, in yoga philosophy, you have Purusha and Prakriti. And what is Prakriti? How do we define Prakriti?
With nature.
With form.
What was that?
With form.
Yes, you can sort of define Prakriti with, no, well, what else is Prakriti besides with
We
form?
are all Prakriti.
Yes, so what's the, yes, so Prakriti is actually this entire universe. This entire universe at the macrocosmic level and at the microcosmic level, our own mind, body, ego complex, which we have an identification to. So our goal is then basically how to separate ourselves from this mind, ego, body complex and just be the Purusha by itself.
We have to realize ourselves as Purusha.
Yeah, we have to realize ourselves as Purusha, and we have to detach ourselves from this material nature. So that's why when Ramakrishna says this Virag and Anurag, Virag means what? It's a Bengali word, but what do you think it means? Even you don't have to know Bangla to know it.
Vairagya.
Yes, Vairagya. Virag means detachment. And what does Anurag mean? Attachment. Attachment to what?
God.
To God.
Purusha.
To a Purusha, the Atman, whatever you want to call it, Ishvara, Saguna Brahman, Mother Kali, Ramakrishna, whatever you say. So our goal is twofold: to cut the attachment to the world, practically that means lowering our expectations. This is a wonderful daily practice. We see this dukkha, which we're going to talk about in the Yoga Sutras, normally that we experience that when?
Our expectations are met.
When we
We
have,
don't meet our, whatever is happening does not meet our expectations.
yes, whenever something is there and it does not meet our expectations. So that causes us dukkha. Okay? So what's the goal then? To have less dukkha, less suffering?
Less sukha.
Sukha. Actually, go ahead.
I'm sorry, lowering, not having so many expectations, accepting what it is.
Yeah, not having so many expectations, accepting things as they are. That's true. And I also think that, but at the same time, I think Jyoti here in the audience said sukha. But sukha also is, our actually goal is that any kind of experience we have with this world, we're going to find this out in Yoga Sutras, any type of experience we have, whether it's sukha or dukkha, it causes pain. So our goal is both to go beyond sukha and dukkha. Actually, that's what the Buddha realized. Even within sukha, the sukha that he was the prince, it's like Buddha, if you read the Kathopanishad, and they talk about Nachiketa having dominion over half the entire world. So that's actually the state of the Buddha. He had this dominion over the entire world. He was the crown prince. He was worshipped by all. He had a beautiful wife. He had a young body. He had a healthy body. So I think in the Chandogya Upanishad, they talk about the different layers. No, I'm sorry, the Taittiriya Upanishad. There's a section called Anandavali, and they talk about like the different levels of joy. So that first level of joy, they say, what's the maximum level of joy you can get from attachment with this mind, body, ego complex? So they said, okay, hypothetically, you're like more than the president of the United States, maybe like the emperor during the British time. Britain was they ruled over the entire universe. A healthy body, admiration of all. Everyone admires you, whatever you want to think, whatever gives that joy. That joy, that's the ultimate, that's one unit of joy in the Taittiriya Upanishad. And yet, what they said is that compared to that, you keep going up to different layers of joy. The next layer of joy is the level of joy that comes from renunciation or lowering our expectations of this world is 1,000 times that one unit of joy. The maximum joy that we can think of that comes from our experience with this mind, body, ego complex. All the greatest foods, the greatest pleasures, the greatest recognitions, the greatest respect. All of that is one unit. Compared to that, 1,000 times more is this joy of renunciation. Not full renunciation. So that means as to the extent that we can cut our expectations from this world. Oh my God, I expected that person to do that. That person did not do that. That causes us lots of pain. So how can we really reduce our expectation of others, especially of others? That's the hardest thing to do. But that's the challenge that we have before us. Kolal, do you have the microphone? Because people on Zoom are there, so they can also listen as well.
I was trying to clarify, is unrealistic expectation or no expectation at all?
Daryl, you can also maybe show the crowd. That's okay. We'll do that. What did you say, Colin?
Yeah, because I was trying to clarify the concept that should we have no expectation at all or unrealistic expectation?
Well, so Kolal was asking the question: should we have no expectation? We're talking about how to get more joy in the world. So should we have no expectation or less expectation? So we have to be practical. If you try to say no expectation, that cannot come unless we have the state of what's called nirbashana, which means desirelessness. That's an end state. So let's not even use no, because we have to only start from where we are. This is, I think, one thing that prevents us from making spiritual progress. We have to start with 2 feet on the ground. We sometimes project ourselves higher than we actually are. So in Vedanta, they say pratibhashika satyam, like it's an illusionary state, an imaginary state. We think we're starting there. So that's why this self-knowledge, where are we starting? I think that that's one thing in the Advaita Vedanta, we talk about the highest ideal. But how do we reconcile or calibrate that highest ideal with the self-knowledge of where we are right now? Both are necessary.
Baby steps.
Yeah, baby steps from where we are. So I think this one of the authors, who's heard of James Clear? He wrote this book, Atomic Habits. And he talked about what's the way to make progress in life? Aggregate habits. So if you improve 1% every day, something small every day, after 365 days, you've made quite a bit of improvement. So I think somehow we have to apply that principle in our spiritual life and also in our psychological life as well.
I was thinking a little different ways. Let's say you have a kid. But if you try to think you don't have a lot of expectation for the kids, then you're not providing structure for the kids. I'm thinking the kids as the other person.
You said if you have kids, what?
Yeah, let's say you have less expectation for the kid, then you're not providing a structure for the kid.
Yes.
So that the kids can fulfill.
Yes.
Of course, it's very different for your friends or a mature family member.
Yes. So Kolal made a good point. He said that if we have less expectations of our kids, but that's for somebody else. We're talking about ourselves, not them. And I think that that's one of sometimes the main problem that especially Asian parents have. We put our expectations on our kids. American society is different. They have no expectation of their kids sometimes. So that's there, but there's two pendulums, and so, but how do we strike like the balance in between both, right? So if you're an Asian parent, you have too much expectation, but that's not for. So our expectation should not be for the gratification of our own ego. It should be what's good for them, and so that's different. We should have expectation, a duty that we want them to do well, and we want them we want to raise them with good values. So that expectation those are good expectations. Without expectations towards ourselves and towards those who we have a duty to raise, they have to come up as well. So we have to have expectation towards that. When we're saying expectation, it really applies towards my own ego. Okay.
Swami, what did you say? Pratibhashika what?
That's what the term I used was Pratibhashika Satyam.
Satyam.
Yeah, that's the third in Advaita Vedanta. There's three levels of reality. One is Vyavaharika Satyam, which is the transactional reality. Paramarthika Satyam, which is the Brahman. Brahman alone is Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi. And this Pratibhashika Satyam was introduced by Shankaracharya. And what that means is, this imaginary reality. Like a hair, a rabbit, a hair in the sky. Like something imaginary. So you can now raise the question whether the internet is something also Pratibhashika Satyam now. Where does that exist? Playing video games, playing virtual reality.
So would the rope and the snake example be...
You have to speak into the microphone. People
I'm so sorry. Will the rope and the snake example be the Pratibhashika Satyam?
Well, the rope and snake example is it's an analogy, and it's an analogy to use to try to explain that how Brahman alone is, and the entire world is a projection. So the snake is the projection, and the rope is. Similarly, this world of nama, rupa, this name and form, this is just a projection. And sublating that projection is that one reality, the rope, which is Brahman, the Atman, which alone is.
So that wouldn't be the Pratibhashika Satyam?
No, that's not this Pratibhashika Satyam. Pratibhashika Satyam is something imaginary. You imagine in your mind. It's not real. It doesn't have a relative existence. Okay, so now let's continue with the Yoga Sutras now. So now, last week I talked about this Atha Yoga Anushasanam. I sent today the PDF of Swami Hariharananda as well. I hope all of you received it, and also on Zoom if some of you received it. And last time, we taught Atha Yoga Anushasanam. If you look at Hariharananda, and maybe some people on Zoom may not have it, I'll just read it. I'm going to read Vyasa's commentary. Vyasa was one of the commentators, the main commentator of the Yoga Sutras, the traditional commentator, Vyasa. And why we have that? Because the Yoga Sutras are very brief. They're aphorisms. So to understand them in more detail, you need a realized soul. So these commentators, these ancient commentators, are like realized souls. So they're giving their explanation. So Vyasa says that this, what is yoga? Yoga means concentration, samadhi. And then he says, it is a feature of the mind in all its habitual states. Now he said, this concentration exists in these 5 different states, which I'm going to tell what Vyasa describes. The first one is kshipta. Can anyone recall what I said kshipta means from last week?
Yes, restlessness.
Restless. Okay. Yes, restlessness. Also, anyone from Zoom, you can also say as well, but you just have to unmute yourself and then show yourself and say your name. Okay. So kshipta. This is one of our Vyasa is going to describe the 5 different states of mind that we revolve around. One is Shipta, restlessness. Next state he says Mura. Mura means what?
Stupefied.
Yeah, stupefied. Anyone else? Can anyone else say what a Mura mean? What does that actually? Stupefied. Well, besides Lakshmi ji, anyone else can say what does stupefied mean? Or anyone from the net even you can say as well.
Stupid mind, like dumb.
Someone said tamasic qualities. Yes. What do you mean by tamas? You have to speak into the microphone.
like being lazy and, not taking interest in doing anything, things like that.
Yes. So that, right. So this mura means like that. So, and now the problem is, before the problem with this mura state of being tamasic, dark, is that you would just lay in bed and just sleep. But now the problem is you can take the internet, what Tom was saying earlier today, you can take the internet and there's devices now, technology that feed that mura state and that keep you stuck in that. It's like being stuck in quicksand. It keeps you there.
I think watching TV many times is like that.
Watching TV, anything passive. What we talked about, the doom, what they say in internet, the doom scrolling. Doom scrolling is like watching negative news and reinforcing your mind that this world is a horrible place. So that's mura. Next state, who else has not spoken? Or anyone from the internet, you can say, what does vikshipta mean? Literal word.
I know, but I will wait.
Okay. Can anyone from the net want to say as well what vikshipta might mean?
It's the opposite. It's the
Okay,
opposite.
Lakshmi, go ahead.
Distracted.
Yeah, distracted. But we're going to go not distracted as we normally think of it. There's a different term to distraction that we can think of. It's not as we normally think. It has to be worked out. And Vyasa and Hariharananda will work it out. Otherwise, you might think, what's the difference between Shipta and Vikshipta? Next state is this Ekagra. Ekagra means one-pointedness, yes. And the final state is Niruddha. Niruddha means cessation of all vrittis, yes, cessation of all vrittis. Now, the interesting thing is that each of these different states I described, you can be concentrated. You can have concentration in restlessness. You can have concentration in distraction. You can be concentrated in mura, stupefied. That's something that we normally don't think of. So let's go on now. Let's see how to explain this. Now, Vyasa says something. So what's the difference between these different types of concentration? If the goal is concentration and I can have yoga, then why should I strive for having what's called ekagrata, one-pointedness? Why not just be concentrated in mura, or these different states? So Vyasa says in his commentary that there's a difference. There's a difference when we're one-pointed. Not only in meditation, even when we're reading a book, as we talked about. If you get what they call the flow state, even what we talked about this, I think, a lecture a couple of weeks ago, cultivating spiritual habits in an age of distraction. So when we cultivate this flow state, then I think one of the conditions that the author had said is that we forget time and space. We forget agency. We're in what you call the flow. Whether it's reading a book, playing basketball, anything, when we get that flow state. Similarly, it's a little bit different. Vyasa says in his commentary, I'll just read the Sanskrit just real briefly. Yaha tu ekagre chetasi sat bhutam arthaha pradyotayati shiroti cha kleshan. Kleshan means it weakens these vrittis, these tendencies which are very strong within us. By one-pointed meditation, one of the benefits that we get, that we don't get from the other states, is that these, what you call these complexes, these klesha vrittis, they get weakened. Another thing, karma bandhanani shrathayati, this karma which is causing us to go from birth to birth, it's called in karma, in the yogas, karmashaya. That gets, the bondages break to the extent that we can engage in meditation, deep meditation. Not only that, but we can bring Vedanta in here as well, to the extent that we can engage not only in meditation, to the extent that the next time I'm having an unconscious reaction, I'm ruminating, brooding. This brooding would be this brooding over a person. Maybe somebody insulted me. So that brooding would be mura, it could be shipta, restlessness. That's creating additional karma. We're going to go over this. This is in Yoga's second chapter, 2.15. This karma chakra, this karma, how does karma get produced? And how does it keep, like a wheel, how does it keep, every time we have any type of reaction, know for sure that we're depositing new karma into our subtle body. So that's one of the things we're going to try to learn in the Yoga Sutras, how not to deposit new karma. How do we do that? By avoiding reacting and engaging in more response when we have to respond. Very, very important. And what Vyasa says, the third benefit of this ekagra, this one-pointed concentration, he says, sa sampragyataha yoga iti akhyayate. This is called, and this leads to what's called sampragyata samadhi, which means meditation with form, with vrittis. That's ultimately, that goes this what we call dhyana in Yoga Sutras. This leads to dhyana, this one-pointedness leads to dhyana, which leads to samadhi. See, it's not so difficult, but it is difficult. Yeah.
So, I have a question.
You have to use the microphone, yeah.
So you talked about like reactions, like if somebody says something, like I react. So that creates karma.
Yes.
So that karma doesn't necessarily mean action. It could just be internal thoughts itself.
See, what Shankaracharya says, even thinking, feeling, willing, any movement of the body, that's all action. Even if it's involuntary, even our cells are working right now, that's karma. But what creates this, what we talk about, this karmashaya, which is the yoga's term, what causes karma? And we're running ahead of ourselves, but that's okay. I think it's better to bring these things again and again and again and again, because that way we get more clarity about these things. So what karma actually means is kri, comes from the Sanskrit dhatu kri, which means move, movement, action, effect. Another word of karma, actually, we're jumping ahead, it means deserts. What you deserve, that you get. This is a subtle meaning that actually Swami Vivekananda talked about this. One of it's not even in his commentary here, but it's one of the subtle meanings that Swamiji mentioned. What you get, what you deserve. So that means you don't have a right to complain. Where we are right now is where we deserve to be. Now, does that mean that someone might say, okay, does that mean I don't, Swamiji, so I'm unemployed? So is it okay for me then not to apply for a job? No. So we're unemployed, but at the same time, it's always this thing that the karma's going, But we also have to apply our Purushakara, push back against that. Purushakara means what? Self-effort. So we also have to put our Purushakara. We have to apply that against our karma. Because the desserts that we're reaping in this life, this is already predetermined. I'll just jump ahead a little bit. There's one Yoga Sutras, Sati Mule Tat Vipakaha Jati Ayu Bhogaha. I think this is 2.13, but in chapters. But anyways, what it means is that in this life, our karma gives three things of certainty. Jati, our birth, the type of parents that we have, our family background. All those things are included in Jati. Ayu, what does Ayu mean? Life. Longevity of life. So one of our Swamis now, he's 96, our president of our order, he's 96 years old and still in pretty good health. That's Ayu. And last one is Bhoga. Bhoga means enjoyment. So one is quantity of life, Ayu, and Bhoga here means quality of life. So I think I mentioned this last time, Swami Gautamananda, one sadhu blessed him with longevity of life. May you live long. He was a young monk at the time. So this Swami, his name was Swami Nirvananandaji. He was a disciple of Swami Brahmananda, who I think was whose disciple was Swami Prabhavananda, and I think Swami Yogeshananda's disciple guru was Swami Prabhavananda. So that lineage is here. So Swami Brahmananda, his disciple Swami Nirvananandaji, he served Swami Brahmananda really well. So at the end of Swami Brahmananda's life, he looked at him and said, "Don't worry, you will attain Tumi Brahma Gyan Pabo. You will get Brahma Gyana, you will get knowledge of Brahman." Now the Swami Nirvananandaji, he was a living realized soul. And whatever he said would come to be truth. He would speak truth into existence, which is also mentioned in the Yoga Sutra. So when he said this to Swami Gautamanandaji, that as long as you live, Jotodin Banchpen, Totodin Bhalo Shori Thakben. As long as you live, in Bangla he told him, to that extent you'll have good health. So Swami Gautamanandaji, even now at the age of 96, president of the order, he was keeping, actually till 95, he was keeping excellent health. Now he's keeping pretty good health, even now. So going back to this, so that's what we were talking about, this ekagra, this one-pointedness. Now let's go on. So I just want to now read what Swami, let's go over each of these states. What Swami Hariharananda in his commentary says. So he says the habitual states in which a mind can be have been indicated as 5 in number: restless, stupefied, infatuated, distracted, one-pointed, and arrested. Of these, the mind which is naturally restless, Shipta, has not the patience or intelligence necessary for contemplation of a supersensuous subject, and consequently cannot think of or comprehend any subtle principle. Again, I go back to the talk I gave on cultivating spiritual habits in an age of distraction. One of the things that we, and Tom read that book, this is by Nicholas Carr called The Shallows. One of the things that we get from the internet, it's destroying the subtlety of mind. Not even spiritual subjects, but even just subtlety to comprehend a subject itself. There's a gross level and a subtle level. So the subtlety of mind is getting... So what happens when we're in this shipta, this restless state of mind? Say in the morning time that we're running late for work. Shivadas, we're running late for work. And we have to... we have to run really, we have to get at work, our boss is waiting for us, or a movie shoot is about to begin, and so we have to get there on time, we're running late, so we're going in between traffic. So that would be the ideal state of kshipta, restlessness. Now, if someone asked you in that state of mind, okay, Shivadas, now just sit down and meditate, in that state of mind, or read the Upanishads, it would be very difficult to study that type of concentration. For that reason, we say that when returning back from work at the end of the day, you have to go there, you have to come back, that mind will be quite kshipta at that time, restless. From that state, we want to increase it from kshipta to what?
Calmness.
Okay, but even before that, vikshipta. Vikshipta means distracted. We sometimes think concentration. That's not possible. To come from restlessness to ekagrata, which is one-pointedness, is not so, that's almost impossible unless you're the greatest of yogis. So what we normally do, we jump from what? Stage 1 to stage 2, which is what? Vikshipta. Now, what does vikshipta mean? Let's see what Swami Hariharananda says about vikshipta. He says the third is the distracted vikshipta mind. This is different from the restless mind. Most of the spiritual devotees have this type of mind. It's really interesting. Most of us have this vikshipta mind. We normally think that spiritual devotees should have concentrated. No. So I like what Hariharananda is saying. He's being practical. Most of the spiritual devotees have this type of mind. A mind, so what does distracted mean? Vikshipta? He says, a mind which can be calm sometimes and disturbed at other times is regarded as a distracted mind. Calm sometimes and other times distracted, restless. But it's not being tamasic, lazy, mura. That's one thing. We have different days when Swamis come and we have a Sunday lecture. Sometimes people during the lecture, they feel very, or puja, special puja, we feel very, many people say they feel, Swamiji, I feel a great calmness today. I think the other day we went up to Stone Mountain, and a few of us went up to Stone Mountain early morning, and so it was a very beautiful thing that we had, a very wonderful experience. It felt like we were on top of a mountain in the Himalayas called Chandi Pahar, where the Divine Mother lives. It really felt like that. And as we were sitting there meditating, I was just noticing the faces of all the devotees that went up. And I was really quite stunned looking at the level of absorption. This is one-pointedness, sometimes concentrated. Yet at the same time, now we're walking back down the hill. And I think one of our devotees, Sean, he's afraid of heights. And we're walking down this steep incline. So again, we're kind of worried, we're just restless. So this alteration between calm and restless. This is what we call vikshipta. So the thing we're trying to do, because we're all what we say works in progress, we want to increase slowly the percentage of that. Say that right now we're maybe 90% of the time we're in restless state or this mura, stupefied state, but mainly restlessness. So we want to go from that to more of this vikshipta, more this concentrated. So that's not just like climbing a mountain, that takes time. So slowly and gradually we have to increase the percentage of our quality of concentration. There's a work by, what is his name? Cal Newport. How many of you have heard of Cal Newport? He talked about a book called Deep Work. And in this, he says that even in studies, if someone turns off their cell phone, turns off all distractive devices, and just sits for concentration, it takes about 3 hours minimum to reach a state of flow, sticking with that subject. Minimum of 3 to 4 hours at a time. Minimum of 3 hours it takes to reach the next level of what you call insight, subtlety. We're talking about ekagrata, one-pointedness. That's in meditation, but that state can also exist in our work. A scientist, a yoga teacher, a playwright, a film producer, a filmmaker, whatever it may be, that next level of insight from which, so Cal Newport said, if you get in that 3 to 4 hour zone, that's where genius can take place. He tried this himself and he found this to be true. So this is that Vikshipta state is what we're trying for. Now, Hariharananda says, when temporarily calm, a distracted mind can understand the real nature of subtle principles when it hears of them and can contemplate on them for a time. On account of difference in intelligence and other traits of character, there are innumerable varieties amongst men with this distracted mind. There can be concentration even with a distracted mind, but such concentration does not last long. So when we're distracted, we can have an aha moment. We can have a temporary vision of Ramakrishna. But what happens? It goes away. Why? What did we say in the beginning? Virag means what? What pulls us away? Our desires. That's the magnet with the iron. So we're trying to go beyond the attraction that we have towards the world. This is virag. We have so much, so the mind's always being pulled like the irons in the magnet, lead, the magnet with the lead. We're always being pulled towards that. So, but to break that and then to go, that's what we say virag. And anurag means what? That magnet then has a liking for something higher. So let me just, and then I think we'll close, we're almost at the end. A mind which can be calm sometimes and disturbed at other times is regarded as a distracted mind. When temporarily calm, a distracted mind can understand the real nature of subtle principles when it hears of them and can contemplate on them for a time. Really interesting. So we listen to Vedanta lectures. Sometimes we're listening, but we're not listening. That's why sometimes when we listen again and again, second, third, fourth time, we're no longer engaging in the Shravana. That moves in Vedanta from Shravana to Manana. Shravana just means, what did the person say? Again, that's a good thing that we can also practice. Next time you listen to a lecture, rather than listening to a lecture for an hour, I'm talking about on YouTube, listen for 10 minutes, 5 minutes. Can you summarize what the speaker has said? Just in that 5 minutes, can you give an outline what they said? What did they say? Can you repeat back to me what I said? We start with 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Then we slowly increase that 15, 20, 25, 30. A whole lecture. Whole lecture goes by. I can repeat what they've said. This is the Shravana. Then the next stage is what we say, Manana. Okay, now I've understood, I've received what you have said. Now do I get it? What did you say? Does it make sense to me? If not, why not? Vedanta, yoga, we give the benefit of the doubt. We can't trust our own mind. It's not that I have to prove something to you. In law, we say benefit of the doubt. So I give the benefit of the doubt that what the teacher, what the sutras is saying is something true. But because of the impurity of my mind, I have not realized it yet. This is what you call what? Shraddha, faith. Faith in the scriptures. We have to give that benefit of the doubt. Not prove it to me. No, not prove it to me. It's not, that's a objective approach. No, subjective approach, let me learn. Let me see. Let me keep practicing. Let me have faith that I'll get it if I keep practicing.
Swamiji, many psychological studies show that.
Speak to the microphone, please.
Yes, many psychological studies show that only students learn only, listen or understand only 10 to 15% of the lecture. So the teacher's job is many times to repeat so that, the main point, so that the student gets it.
Yes, also,
So when you say-
wait, now, hang on, the audience is listening, you have to speak, also say your name, so you're not just
Oh,
up
okay,
here.
I'm Chetan.
Okay, Chetan, okay. So Chetan said that many times it's for this principle that teachers in the class repeat things many times, repetition. That's true in the beginning, but now with this internet and all, when I was in Harvard, I saw even the undergraduate, I used to attend some undergraduate classes. And even there, I saw that the kids sitting, they would be swiping on their tablet, watching a video. So that's another level, that you're not even receiving that. You're not even trying to listen. So that's another battle that we're facing now. Okay, so we'll just, let me just, Hariharan, I will just complete this, because I just want to, you don't have to get so many things, but just a few ideas. What did I say afterwards? You should be able to write that down. And then how can I make it work for me? At least what the principles are here. So the third, let me just repeat one more time what Swami Hariharananda says about the Vikshipta mind. This is different from the restless mind. Most of the spiritual devotees have this type of mind, a mind which can be calm sometimes and disturbed at other times is regarded as a distracted mind. When temporarily calm, a distracted mind can understand the real nature of subtle principles when it hears of them and can contemplate on them for a time, but it cannot hold it. Another example of this is Ramakrishna, his devotee, Trilokanath. I think it's not Trilokanath. What's his name? In Kalpatarude. Yes, Vaikuntanath Sanyal. Vaikuntanath Sanyal. During Kalpataru Day in Kashipur, August 1st, what was the date? January 1st, 1886, Ramakrishna became Kalpataru. He gave liberation to many. He said, Chaitanya Hok. Now, and whatever their inner desire was, that became true. So Vaikuntanath Sanyal, his inner desire was to have the constant inner vision of his chosen deity. He had that for 3 days. After 3 days, he found out that he kept seeing Ramakrishna in his heart and kept seeing him everywhere. Yet at the same time, he had a business to run. So he was actually worried. Oh man, how am I going to run my business? If he had continued in that state, what happens when the mind is being pulled in two directions? It's being pulled towards the world and with so much force towards spirituality. You can go mad. You can actually become pagla. So finally, after 3 days, he went back to Ramakrishna and says, please take this away from me. I can't take it anymore. I'm about to go mad. So at that time, Ramakrishna took that away. His mind fell down. Then when it fell down, it's like he had been walking above the earth. Then you fall down, then he felt really depressed. What did I do? I had this, I was having these wonderful visions. So what if I became mad? What's the big deal? That's better to have become mad and to have that experience, have Sri Ramakrishna. That's what we say this Vikshipta state of mind is. It's that you have some spiritual experience, some taste, but you cannot hold it. You always fall back. So our goal is what? To try to go to the, to that next level, yes. As we increase our ability to hold, as we increase our concentration, as we lower our expectations towards the universe, we find that we can hold it better. Okay, so today we're going to complete with that, and then it's time. So then we'll take questions. For anyone who has questions, we can take questions from Zoom or anywhere else. If anyone has questions, you can raise your hand, and then you can unmute your microphone, and you can ask the question or any point of discussion, anything that struck you. It doesn't have to be a question. It could be your own insight, whatever you want to think of. Okay, let's start with Swayam first, and then we'll go to Rajiv. Yes, Swayamji, go ahead.
Yes, Namaste Swami. Really, really great class.
Swayamji, you have to unmute yourself. We can't hear you.
I Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, Swamji.
You can't hear.
I am unmuted.
No, we can hear her. We can hear her.
Okay. Swami, can you hear? Hello?
I think it's unmuted from his end. He should mute.
The volume, they will need to increase the volume over there.
Okay. Huh? One moment, Swami. Something's not working properly.
Okay.
Okay, now we can hear you. Yeah, now we can hear you.
Oh, okay. A wonderful class. My question is, you said about the devotee who got the on Kalpataru day the spiritual transfer, and yet after 3 days he couldn't take it anymore, and he was afraid he would become mad. What
Yes.
exactly does it mean, like becoming mad? What would have happened?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, and so that and why that's also really good is because sometimes, we talk about this Kundalini awakening, and people ask this, Swamiji, I think my Kundalini got awakened. So, and it can get awakened, and it definitely can get awakened. So what happens then when the Kundalini gets awakened, then what can happen, or any type of spiritual, I've had Samadhi. So then what will happen then is that unless we're prepared, it can be very something like very, what do you say, very, it can be like 1,000,000 watts or 10,000 watts going, and we only have the capacity to hold 100 watts. What would happen at that time, Swayamji? If the current of energy is too much, but our capacity is not much, what would happen at that time to a light bulb, say, or to our
It
computer?
would just burst. I mean, burst and break.
Yes, burst and break. So that's why that's why we don't really, in our order, we don't sometimes encourage too much. Don't go, it's like one Swami, sometimes one brahmachari joined in Travuco Canyon, and somebody asked them that they were meditating 24/7 every day for like a month. And finally, the Swami Tadatvananda, who painted these great pictures, he told this brahmachari, the senior monk told this brahmachari, you cannot storm the gates of heaven in a day. Everything takes time. And so we have to be very slow and gradual and build up our muscles. Like the same thing that if we can only lift 100 pounds, and then you wanted to like go to the bench press, and someone gives you 300 pounds, what would happen then? That would be the end of us, right? We wouldn't be able to hold it. So same thing, this is all slow and gradual. And what we talked about in this Vikshipta state, we mainly alternate between restless, distracted, and one-pointed. So slowly, when we go from restless, when we return from work, we first go to distracted. Distracted means alternating between restlessness and one-pointedness. So this takes time, and slowly we increase the percentage of our concentration. And that's the purpose of, you say, doing japam more through the day. What's the benefit of doing japam more and more through the day? That's one benefit. That when we're doing japam, more concentrated activities, we're slowly increasing that percentage of the concentrated mind.
Thank you.
Okay. Rajiv, and then we'll go to Ratan. Rajiv, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Swamiji, there are some people use music like to get into a state of flow, like rhythmic music while working. If you put the music, it helps you get into concentrated mind. Is that really concentrated, or is that like sort of they're trying to get over their attention deficit? What exactly is that? I do perceive myself that when I put some music, it especially like rhythmic music without any words, or like ambient music or some sort of vibration, it kind of helps me be more concentrated and improves the emotions that come with the work or whatever I'm doing, reading or even meditating or something like that.
Right. Well, it's interesting that you say music, because that day we went to Stone Mountain. We went to Stone Mountain on Saturday morning, and so as we were walking up, I did this when I went to Mount Kailash as well, and so I wanted us. I told the group before we went up that because that mountain really looked like Chandi Pahar in the Himalayas, so that was really went deep into me. And when I was in Haridwar, I think in the Himalayas, I used to go every day to the top of Chandi Pahar to see Ma Koshiki. So, anyways, I think as we were walking up, we played this Om Namah Shivaya. We were playing that Om Namah Shivaya. Then when we went to the top of the mountain, we were kept playing. Then we played this Gayatri mantra, just playing on the from YouTube. Other people would be passing by us, and they were playing all different types of music. So we could see that when they would come in our vicinity, they're playing that music. The impact of that music on the mind, it really made an impression on me. We were like in our own little zone because of the music. That music created a wonderful vibration. Same thing we did when we were there. We were like chanting from the Chandi. I think I chanted the Chandi up there. So that also creates this own vibration. So these sacred Sanskrit hymns, these types of things I think are very, we don't realize actually how helpful they are. They help to put us in this flow state. If anything, they're doing two things. If we're not listening to that, we might be listening to something else, something distraction. Because there's never going to be just pure void. Usually there'll be some other type of sound. It might be something distracting, some music, whatever, or some people speaking. So isn't it better to hear something positive? That's the one thing, divine. It's filling in that gap. Secondly, these vibrations, like you said, by themselves, they have something special about them that allows us to elevate our mind in a natural way, to concentrate, to more easily get concentration. So we have to figure out how to manipulate these different things to our advantage.
Swamiji, there's one more thing very interesting I observed is with like mantra chanting, I have a test for me. I've developed a sort of a test. And that test is like, if I'm breathing, let's say Om Namah Shivaya. So it's Om, breathe in, and Namah Shivaya, breathe out.
Yeah.
And I don't use this mantra, but just to explain it. And so if I can do it continuously without getting impatient, because it's you want to do it fast, right? And so if I can do it without, and then suddenly you get into a state where you stop, you stop thinking about really counting, like it doesn't matter to you because you're enjoying it. So that's really the test. Like it's like a lower state versus higher state for me.
Yeah, and I think that's really wonderful too. And I think that's one thing that, and thank you for sharing that with us, because I think that everyone has their own. We can sometimes share this with each other. We all have our own strategies. What to do when the mind gets distracted? What to do when we have, one thing I do. I don't want to really speak with people unpredictable conversations at night. Something that's going to disturb me at night. I really don't want to talk about that at nighttime, because your sleep can get lost at nighttime. If you have to receive bad news about something, that's why we don't turn on the news at night as well. Past a certain time, it's better not to turn on the news. It's better not to see things, because otherwise what's going to happen? Our sleep will get lost. That's one thing I try to practice. And I think that's why they say that in Rajiv, what you said is in that light, if we consciously prepare ourselves for sleep at night, maybe turning off the phone, getting ready. So thinking that we're now preparing our mind for sleep. So they say that some people, if they have to see something on the internet, seeing something, watching something good, calming the mind down, making sure the mind's calm. So we have to think of it like not taking coffee. Like what's the spirit? Like Shankaracharya said that coffee is not just in the drink, but it's also in what we hear, what we taste, what we imbibe. So even news can be like coffee. They can cause our heart to become accelerated. So what can we do to kind of put ourselves in that spiritual state to get ready to sleep? Okay. Any other questions from the Zoom? Otherwise, we'll just.
Swamiji, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, please, Ratan. You can say. Everyone, please say their name and then.
Pranam Swamiji, it's wonderful lecture today. I have a question for you on ekagraha and nirodha.
Huh.
So today you basically the explanation you gave today was mostly from a Gyan Yoga perspective. But in the gospel, Sri Ramakrishna talks about someone asked him that question, how do I attain God? And he said, it's very hard to do it by Gyan Yoga, practice Bhakti Yoga, right?
Right.
Fall at the feet of the deity, cry to God and do puja and everything like that. So my question is, can ekagraha and nirodha also be attained by bhakti marg, bhakti yoga? Because Gyan Yoga, practicing it today, it's quite difficult. You see my point? So
Yeah,
can you comment on that, Swami?
absolutely. So I have the Raja Yoga right in front of me. So on the first page, like this epigram right here, the preface, I think that all of us, we should read this again and again, what Swamiji says. Each soul is potentially divine. The goal is to manifest this divinity within by controlling nature external and internal, and do this either by work or worship or psychic control or philosophy, by one or more of all of these, and be free. So he said by work, this is to Raja Yoga, this is to this Yoga Sutras. So he said by work, which is Karma Yoga, by worship, which is Bhakti Yoga, what is psychic control? Ratan? That's this Raja Yoga, or philosophy, Jnana Yoga. So by one or more or all of these. And I think that last one, by one or more or all of these, I think that's the main thing that we have to look at. How can we should try to put all of these different yogas into practice in our life every day. We should touch base with all of them every day, somehow. So definitely what Ramakrishna says is developing more love for God. That's the easiest way. He says this Bhakti Yoga is this Sahaja Yoga, is the easiest path in the Kali Yuga today. Yeah. But we have to do all these, we're not just emotion. So just like when you're not a person of just emotion, and you're not just of intellect, and we're not of just a worker, we're all these things combined together. So we have to combine all our different faculties, thinking, feeling, and willing, to help us. So thank you. Okay, anyone here have any? Okay, Shivadas, please ask the question.
Swami, what is your nightly, I guess, before bed ritual, if you have one? You mentioned not watching the news. Do you have anything else that's more specific?
Yeah, I think I'd rather just say, I think like what the senior monks do. And I used to go to Arogya Bhavan, where our senior monks live in Bellarmont. So I could see that they would have like a senior night routine. Almost all of them, they would read the Gospel of Ramakrishna or the Kathamrita in Bengali or whatever. They would read that before going to sleep. That's one thing that almost all of them would do.
Like by themselves, or in a group?
Yeah, well, in like in our Advaita ashram, for example, we all do a night reading together. Every night we do a night reading, and that's probably something that we can also do here as well, a night reading as well. Then going to sleep after that, that can be done. So we just read. People read for like 10 minutes or so, then we go to sleep. So that last thought should be like that. So that's what they try to do. Let that last thought be of something divine. So that takes time. That's not so easy sometimes to do, but to cultivate that habit, that's a really important thing. Yeah. And I think that in that line, and I'll just end with this, that this Swami Atmagyanananda who's coming, he's really, I'd say that those of you who can come, not many people here, but try to come this weekend, he's really a par excellence monk in that sense. I think he has a routine. He gets up, last 50 years, he gets up at 3:30 every morning. Even if he goes to sleep at 11:30 at night, he gets up at 3:30 in the morning. He wakes up, takes a shower, reads the Kathamrita, then he goes for meditation 2 hours. Every day he's done this, last 50 years. So these habits are very, very, very important. And I think today we can try that. Let's all try today to, it's not so easy to do everything just at once like that. So I think that even to choose like even just one type of habit, to build towards that. So that we brush our teeth and we read one passage of the Kathamrita and we keep our cell phone and other things locked up. That itself is enough. That one thing can lead to liberation because it can from that one habit. This is what James Clear says also in his book Atomic Habits. From one habit you can build other habits, but there has to be something that's very very concrete and very like fundamental. I had one bad habit. I used to when I would use the YouTube, or when I would read the Chandi from the iPad on the elliptical machine at the gym. So sometimes that machine merges with the elliptical machine. It's hard. You keep forgetting every single time you leave there. So to break that habit, you have to keep. I think that they say that whenever you get off, if you forget, you have practiced that 3 or 5 times even. Say that we don't remember to say Durga Durga before starting the vehicle. If you forget one time, so 5 times you start the car, you turn it off, you got to do it again. You get out of the car, you make it. You have to physically. They say physically putting in another habit. I think James Clear talked about this as well. It's not just in the mind, but these things have to become something physical, like kind of a ritual, a routine. So we can all, I think, try that today. Something we can try when we go back today. Let's all try to. In fact, I would say this. Yeah, let's give ourselves a homework assignment for next week, and let's journal about it. Our homework assignment will be this: let's all cultivate a spiritual habit for night. Just that much. And we can go around and we can talk about it next week. Okay? Everyone write about it. It may not happen in one day, but let's try to make that just one habit. How can we go to nighttime? How can we, if we have the habit of watching technology, maybe the habit might just be locking that up for a week. Locking those devices somewhere else, turning it off. Starting with baby steps. And maybe reading one passage of the Kathamrita. That's enough. Keep it not so much, just one thing very, very simple. So let's all take up that homework assignment who would like to, and we can journal about it, and let's hopefully when we come back next week we can have that one new habit. Okay, so this is one thing, and the other thing is just try to memorize this Atha Yoga Anushasanam 1.1. That should be memorized. So these 2 assignments for next week. Okay, so then today we're going to close. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Okay, thank you. Thank you everyone.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Okay, thank you.